Hi all, today we'll be learning how to calculate any elasticity, whether it's input elasticity of God knows what. We will figure it out. Alright, so we're going to start off with this equation, and I'm going to add a little more about what this question is asking. We're looking for the price elasticity of demand, and the given quantity is 40. Alright, with any question we want to know what is the responding price, just because it's easier to calculate. So find price and quantity. Alright, so we found our quantity. It is 40, and we could plug that right straight into the equation, which would give us 100. Alright, that's our price and quantity. Second step is to find out what kind of formula is this. Is this the inverse? Is it regular? Let's take a look. Regular or inverse? Alright, and we know it's the inverse here because the regular formula is when Q equals P with all the numbers. So Q is typically on their own, but we could tell that P is on their own and Q is with all of these other numbers today. So we have the inverse. So now that we know which formula we're working with, we can find out what equation we need. So when we take the inverse, we typically do this formula. So the elasticity, so this doesn't just apply to PED, but we can just do this. Elasticity equals 1 over the derivative of, well, the slope of PQ. All right, and then the rest of the formula is the same, where P is always on top of Q. That's just how it goes. I like to think of P's over queers. Anyways, that's probably not right. That is the inverse formula that we'll use. However, if it's normal, we'll use the derivative of Q over the derivative of P. Alright, but we don't have that here, and we don't want to rearrange the equation, so that is what we're working with. Alright, so what is it? Let me just write this down. Find formula version. Alright, let me just highlight. Wonderful job. We're going to insert into formula. Insert values into formula. Alright, so PED now, just because we're working with that. dP over dQ means we're looking for the slope of Q when P is isolated and alone. So that means that we're going to take the derivative of this value. Wonderful here. So it's going to be, what's the derivative of P over derivative of Q? It'll be negative. Negative 6 Q. Okay, there we go. All right, so we're going to add that in there, negative 6Q times P over Q. All right, so that'll give us 6Q squared over P. All right, so we're just going to solve it now, inserting the values that we got from step 1 here. All right, and that'll give us, are you ready? Times 40 squared. That'll give us negative 0.001. So that means that this slope is inelastic. All right, I hope that helps to solve the inverse equation. Now let's move on to the next question. All right, now we're moving on to the next question, and we are looking now at income elasticity of demand. What is going on here? What is going on with this question? What are these words? Do I use the same equation? I guess we'll see. All right, let's take a look here. We're going to find the, we can't start off with the prices just because that is not what we're looking at. So we're asking today, what are we looking for? We're looking for the income elasticity of demand. What do we find? Okay, what I like to think about is whatever we're looking of, that is the numerator in the regular PED equation. So, or elasticity, because we're not doing PED right now. Elasticity. So we typically know there's a derivative of something times the derivative of something multiplied by P over Q, and that's typically how it goes. But that's because we're looking at the price elasticity of demand. That's QD here, by the way. Of, like the keyword is of here. So that means that if we're looking for something of demand, QD is going to be at the top because it's of all the time. Of is of, above. Of is above. There we go. And then the first thing, typically, which was price in price elasticity, is income now. So we're going to put income down here. So it's the income elasticity of demand, of. Think of Anyways, so there we go. That's our equation today. So then we can find the values that we need. So today we're not looking for price, we're looking for the income. So the QD and the income. All right, so the income is given to us and it is $1,000. And then the QD is for 100. Beautiful. All right, let me just take these away. All right, now we're going to find the rest of the equation. We've solved this area. We're going to find the rest. Find which. Find which, sorry, I just blanked there. Find which equation for derivative. All right. So we're going to find the equation of the derivative here. So we're looking for d over di. So that means that we're looking for q equals I with all the jargon and all those little letters there. So let's take a look here. We're looking for the formula right over here. Let's take a look. All right. Q is a function of I with all the jargon. What is the derivative? What is the slope of I in this equation? And that's 0.5, as we can see right here. So we're going to take that in here and we're going to add that into this equation, solve. So it's going to be equal to 0.5 times I, which is 1,000 over 4 that, because that is I and that is for 100. Subbing them into the equation correctly, we are going to get 0.12. Wonderful job. Now that is the income elasticity of demand. And the key thing in solving income elasticity is knowing where to put what before finding the price. We're not looking for the price. We're not asking for the price. It's not the price elasticity of demand. It's the income elasticity. Wonderful job. Now let's go on to the next question here. All right, we're looking for the input elasticity now. What is going on? Hey, we already know what's going on. Income elasticity, not just of demand, of supply. So we're looking at a completely different curve. We're looking at the supply, not QD. No, we're looking at QS. All right, from here, we're going to go into this straight up. So we know that we're not looking at price, so we're going to find the values of what they're looking for. So input elasticity, input and supply, that are our key words. So what is our input here? That is PI, and that is given to us in the question. PI is equal to $5. That's the input price. And then we're looking at QS, supply, and that'll be for 100 because they said that's the equilibrium price. I don't know why this is here. Ignore. Yeah. All right. So we'll be looking at that. Let me just rearrange this for you. All right. So after finding that, what did we do in the previous step? We're going to find the equation of the derivative. So this time, what is it of? It is of supply. So that'll be the numerator. QS is of supply. And then the first one, input, is obviously going to be at the bottom. All right, so we're looking back at the equation. That's right. QS is on the left side. It's of. It is isolated. And what is the slope of PI? It is -20. All right, so let's add it into the equation now. Let's solve. All right, so we at negative 20 times P times, what would it be? Yeah, Pi over Qs. All right, so let's input the numbers. All right, wonderful job. That is exactly what we're supposed to get. That is how you solve it all. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day.